Nick Hulscher joins us. You can follow him at thefocalpoints.com. Nick, thank you for all you've been doing in 2025. You've been on fire with your publications. One of the things that I wanted to review with you was the peer-reviewed study on mRNA genetic disruption. Tell me about that.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. And yeah, this study, there's a whole big backstory behind it, and it is very worrisome to say the least. So the first thing was we put this paper up on a preprint server hosted by MDPI, the publisher. It was targeted by what is called the PubPeer or PubSmear mob, and it was retracted for really unknown reasons from a preprint server. And so they took it off there, but we managed to get it published in a peer-reviewed PubMed indexed journal, the World Journal of Experimental Medicine. So now it is available for everyone to read. And what we found was we compared the gene expression profiles between a healthy control group pre-COVID to mRNA-injured individuals, 3 with cancer and a few with neurological and cardiovascular adverse events. We found that in the mRNA injured, thousands of gene expressions become dysfunctional related to mitochondrial function, immune function, protein production. So they're creating abnormal proteins, as well as cancer surveillance genes are literally turned off, P53 and CRAS, as well as BRCA. And so basically what this shows is flooding the body with synthetic messenger RNA is unleashing biochemical havoc, and this has severe consequences.
I'm hearing also, and it's this very rumored buzz I'm hearing, so I may be completely wrong, and I don't know really where it's coming from even, or who would be pushing this out, but that the team over at MAHA is looking very seriously at some data that suggests profound harm from the COVID vaccine that has been largely suppressed. Are you hearing stuff like that? Are you seeing data like that?
Well, I'll tell you, I've seen the data. I am aware they recently had that leaked memo, the FDA memo of 10 child deaths, but that is just the microscopic tip of the iceberg. We now have 3 independent estimates of American deaths as a result of the COVID-19 vaccination campaign. It ranges from 480,000 up to 840,000 American deaths. One of these, the first estimate, is based on an extrapolation by a study by Florida Surgeon General Joe Ladapo. They had 1 million people from Florida, and Pfizer recipients faced a 36% increase in all-cause mortality, not from COVID-19, compared to Moderna recipients. So just extrapolating that mortality increase alone from Pfizer is about 480,000 American deaths from Pfizer alone. And then we have CDC mortality records using the Wonder database, indicating there may be 840,000 total deaths from these shots. So this is a sustained mass casualty event, and it appears to still be ongoing as many individuals appear to suffer from turbo cancers many years later or sudden cardiac arrests.
Do you think that some of this possible increase in cancer that people are talking about is related to what you were just talking about in terms of cancer surveillance genes being turned off?
Yeah, I think that's very plausible. And we have multiple corroborating studies now for cancer. We have 2 population studies totaling 8.4 million people combined. These were vaccinated versus unvaccinated. One was in Italy, one was in South Korea. And both of them combined found about the mRNA shots increased the risk of about 7 distinct types of cancers, ranging from colorectal, bladder, and prostate to breast and thyroid cancer. Overall cancer hospitalizations were up about 25% in the mRNA groups compared to the unvaccinated. And both mRNA and viral vector platforms appear to be carcinogenic. Both were correlated with increased risks of overall cancers. And then we move into the biological evidence, like we just mentioned, the transcriptomic chaos study we just published but as well as there's been a few case reports. One we recently published showing the first evidence of genomic integration of mRNA vaccine genetic material in a stage 4 bladder cancer patient, as well as a paper by Professor Sano, I believe in Japan, found the vaccine spike protein, no nucleocapsid, literally within metastatic breast cancer cells. This breast cancer metastasized to this woman's skin, and they literally found the vaccine spike protein in the nucleus of those cells. So it appears that, unfortunately, yes, these cancers are happening as a result of the mRNA injections. And there was also another paper, I'll mention this last one, where it was published by Dr. Paul Merrick in the Journal of Independent Medicine. They defined the term COVID-19 vaccine-induced turbo cancer. So it is in the peer-reviewed literature. It is not a myth like the vaccine cartel claims.
And how do we distinguish this from the effects of COVID? Because I'm imagining COVID must do some of the same things. I mean, you're very zeroed in on the mRNA per se, but I've been zeroed in on the spike protein as pathogenic. There's got to be some consequence from COVID also.
Yeah, that's correct. The spike protein from both the virus and the vaccine is highly pathogenic. It's bad for every organ system. It does appear that the viral spike protein may also suppress tumor suppressor genes, but we don't know which one's more severe. We do suspect, though, the mRNA injections are more severe in that we are now finding vaccine materials in individuals 3.6 years after their last injection. This case report, we're about to publish it in the next week or so. Yeah, let me just quickly go over this. We found circulating Pfizer mRNA in his exosomes 3.6 years after his last shot. And we also found plasmid DNA from the manufacturing process SV40 ORI segments, as well as the spike expression segments in his skin. In his Grover's disease area, he developed this skin disease after the shots. And we also found vaccine spike protein and no nucleocapsid in this skin area as well. 3.6 years after his last shot, he suffered from myocarditis, pulmonary embolism, multi-system vaccination syndrome, neurological adverse events as well. And so the fact that we are finding this material 43 months after the last shot means we were lied to completely. We were told it would stay in the arm, it would degrade within weeks. That was wrong, and we expect lawsuits to begin to flood in.
Yeah, I don't think there's any more doubt about that having been complete fallacy. The localized, even just the localized lymph sort of processing of the vaccine is to complete fantasy. Let me, if you don't mind, I want to run some predictions for 2026 past you, and you tell me if these ring true and why for you, okay?
Definitely.
Yes?
Yes.
You're familiar with Dr. Asun Shong's vaccine to enhance killer T cell function, which would be a great way to respond to some of these reduced oncogene functions or reduced surveillance gene functions that you've been referring to. I'm of the opinion that although the mechanism looks good, and please call me wrong on this, but I'm just fearful in 2026 we're going to find out that although the in vitro mechanism looks good, the in vivo data looks good, it's not going to bear fruit the way we thought it might, that particular intervention.
Yeah, I agree with you on there. It's going to be very difficult to find effective interventions to stop this vaccine-induced turbo cancer. We're going to have to find a way to ameliorate this biochemical havoc and transcriptomic havoc.
I mean, that was a great idea, right? Because when the surveillance system fails, the natural killer cells step in and then kill the nascent cancer cells. But if our natural killers are knocked down by COVID or knocked down by vaccine, boost them up. But I don't think it's working quite the way it's supposed to. But we'll see. I hope I'm wrong. I do believe, as you've already alluded, we're going to hear more on vaccine injury news, and it's going to become more of a position of the HHS to point out where this has really happened.
Yeah, I really do hope so. And I think 2026 will be the watershed year where we will at least have one state put a bill forth and pass a bill that will either restrict or ban these injections. Currently at the McCullough Foundation, we are working with multiple state legislatures on providing scientific support and policy language for bills to ban these mRNA injections in their states. And there's already been 4 filed recently. We expect up to 15 states in 2026. So this is a multi-state push to restrict these shots. So while the federal government is, working at a snail's pace, we are hoping to light a fire under them with the state level initiatives.
Understood. And again, hats off to the McCullough Foundation and yourself. I do believe we're also going to hear more on vaccine recommendations in childhood, but vaccine injuries in childhood. I think that's going to become also something more explicitly stated. Do you have any predictions on that?
Yeah, vaccine injury from the childhood vaccines will become much more talked about, I would think. We have seen indications, they already have, pulled back the hepatitis B universal infant recommendation. ACIP did that, so that was great. The CDC changed its website, on the language on its website, finally now saying they cannot claim that vaccines do not cause autism. So we are seeing positive steps there. But a recent paper just came out. It was by Children's Health Defense, Dr. Brian Hooker and Carl Jablanowski. They found that infants, 2-month-old infants, if they got all 6 of the CDC recommended vaccines compared to the unvaccinated, they suffered about a 68% increased odds of dying in the following month compared to the unvaccinated. So it appears that not only, and so there's been 12 studies now comparing vaccinated to unvaccinated. All 12 found the same thing. Vaccinated individuals are far sicker. They have more chronic disease, more autoimmune disease, more neurodevelopmental disorders, more autism, more speech delays, speech disorders, more tics, and more skin disorders, and everything under the sun. And we recently expanded on that in a reanalysis of the Henry Ford study, finding that all 22 chronic disease categories were higher in the vaccinated children. So we have now chronic disease elevations as well as mortality elevations. So this is very serious. We have to start talking about it and replicating this in other states.
And your prediction for 26 is that conversation will become more widespread?
Yes, I do think so.
Do you have other predictions for 26 for me?
Well, my prediction is we will see at least one state restrict or ban the mRNA injections. And I think we'll see more action of restructuring the childhood vaccination schedule. We know there was a memorandum of President Trump, or an order to match our vaccination schedule with other countries. And there is a study that indicates if we do match Denmark's vaccination schedule, we go from 72 doses down to about 11. We will save tens of thousands of children a year from autism. So, it would be a very great thing if that happens. I really do hope it does. But what I would like to see, and I've outlined this, or what I think needs to happen is, first of all, it's about 8 things. First is remove mRNA from the market. Second is develop treatments for the mRNA injured. There's millions of them. Third is repeal the PrEP Act. Fourth, repeal the 1986 National Childhood Vaccine Injury Act. They will have no more liability, Big Pharma, and they will be forced to make safer products. And then you can keep going down the list. We have glyphosate, ban glyphosate. Other countries have done it. It's widespread in the environment, and it's very cancerous to the human body. And a complete moratorium on gain-of-function research, an absolute ban. We saw an executive order earlier that does ban gain-of-function in high-risk countries, but we need a complete moratorium. We cannot risk another human-made pandemic.
Thank you, Nick, for that. I appreciate it very much. I know Sasha Latapova is jumping up and down with your repeal of the PrEP Act. She has been beside herself on her posts lately in terms of the harm that has done. Nick, we appreciate all the work you do. Anything else you'd like to say before I wrap this up?
I'll just say 2026, I think it will be a great year for public health. We're going to keep pushing, and I think it will be very positive.
Thank you, Nick. Talk to you soon.
Thanks.
TheFocalPoints.com is where you should go. McCullough Foundation also. See you in the new year, my friend.